All right, hello, welcome. I was literally just saying out loud, I never know how to start a show, especially a show like this. That's episode 1 of a brand new show that we are doing here at Guerilla Sports. This is called This Is Fun. And that title has several different meanings, many of which we'll unpack over, I'm sure, the course on the life of this show. But this is going to be a show about covering sports. I'm your host. I'm Jesse Montano, if you don't already know. I cover the Colorado Avalanche and the NHL here in Denver for Guerilla Sports, a new sports media outlet here in the Mile High City, but a company that's been around for a long time. Something else that we'll get into. But the number one thing that maybe I get asked about my job is, what is it like? Wow, that's really cool. What do you do? And I thought this show would maybe be an opportunity for me and Jay, who you're going to meet here in just a minute, to pull the curtain back a little bit on this crazy industry that we are super lucky to work in and get to be a part of. And really that is how I do view what we do and our work in this industry. Is I feel lucky to be a part of it. I don't feel like I work in sports. I feel fortunate that I get to be a part of a crazy landscape, a landscape that is unlike anything else I've ever done for work, for hobbies, anything. And we get to meet a lot of interesting people. So this is going to be a show, like I said, about being in sports and getting to be around sports every day. And naturally, the conversations will lead to relevant topics, things that are happening. Like I said, I cover the Colorado Avalanche in the NHL. I'm around hockey a lot. We're, of course, going to get into that kind of stuff and my opinions on certain things. But we get to do a lot of cool things here. I just got back from a 17-day trip on the road that spanned the NHL All Star Game all the way through 6 different buildings. And we're going to talk about what a lot of that is like, the experiences we have, the people we meet, and we will have guests on here. And every guest that you see on this show will be someone that we have met in the sports media industry that I find interesting for one reason or the other. This industry is littered with people that are just fascinating and how they got here and how we all ended up in kind of the same place. So we're going to have those folks on. They're going to, again, kind of tell their story, how they got here, who they are. And I'm sure it's going to lead to some really, really fascinating conversations, relevant, timely conversations, current, present day news, as well as maybe some of the more interesting stories that, we've been fortunate enough to meet people that have these stories to tell. And our guests are going to range anywhere from someone like me who covers sports, who works in sports, all the way up to, we're hoping on our list, we've got players, we've got, staff is the word I couldn't find, general managers, management, coaches, all the way through social media folks, people that work in TV, PR representatives for teams, leagues, things like that. We hope this is going to be a really, really wide-ranging podcast covering a lot of different topics. And the name This Is Fun comes from, there's a team that I've seen that has a sign in their locker room, or they used to, that said, "This is fun." And I think that's a nice reminder for sports and get into work in sports. We can get caught up in the day-to-days. It's really tiring sometimes. It's late nights. It's early mornings. Like I said, it's traveling. It's a lot of different planes, trains, automobiles. And sometimes watching sports can feel stressful and your team isn't doing what you want them to, or they're not performing the way you want them to. But at the end of the day, this is a lot of fun, and we get to have a lot of fun with what we do here, and we're going to hopefully bring you guys along for some of the fun. This is going to be an ever-changing, kind of growing podcast, so this is episode 1, and let me introduce you to the person who will be taking this whole journey with us, and is really someone who does a lot of very thankless and tireless work behind the scenes that people don't realize they're watching stuff that he does. He puts a lot of work into every single night when they are clicking on our content. Should I introduce you by your proper name. This is Jeroen Borisma. How was my pronunciation on that? Bad?
It was all right.
It was bad.
It was
Can
all
you
right.
say it?
Jeroen Boersma.
I was way off on the last. I feel better about the first name. We call him Jay.
Way better.
Jay, you, I guess I don't even really know what to describe you as right now. You kind of do anything that I randomly text Jay at odd hours. I say, hey, can you stop what you're doing and do this really inconvenient thing? And he does it. And so thank you. Tell everyone a little bit about you and how you and I ended up sitting in this room together.
Well, I think your introduction was pretty good, as in I don't really know what I'm doing because I do a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a background in journalism back in the Netherlands, also sports journalism. Then I went on to work for a international pro beach volleyball event,
Which is awesome.
as a social media manager, videographer. So I did all of that too. And here, I think I'm combining both of those, the social media stuff, the journalism, the storytelling, and there's just so much to do, to tell with Denver sports that we're doing with Guerilla Sports. But also what we're trying to do here is just the other side of sports media that we just can't tell. It's not even, we don't want to. It's just there's no room for that.
Yeah.
But here there is. So yeah, I'm going to be part of that, mostly behind the scenes, but sometimes in front of the camera, like right now.
Like on the J cam. That's what we're going to call it.
Exactly. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of insights in just what goes on in sports that you don't always see, because it's not that relevant, but super interesting.
Well, and like you said, we spent it was 5 days in Toronto at the draft, and there's a lot of stuff there that I remember you and I even talking before the trip of like, oh, that'd be really cool to like, show what you guys are doing behind the scenes. But like sometimes when we get to those types of events, like you said, there's just no room for us to be able to stop and make this extra thing. There's not enough time. There's not enough, whatever. So that's what we kind of hope to do here. Everything that we are doing here at Guerilla Sports, it is about telling stories and giving people maybe the access that we are fortunate enough to get in a lot of instances. And so we want to do that on this side of it as well. Because like I said off the top, I get asked about what it is that we do a lot. Again, we are going to, I've got some topics for today. We're going to, of course, work through things that are relevant, that are timely, that we experience, that we see firsthand. So it's always going to stay relevant and current and all of that stuff. But I'm excited to be able to peel back the curtain a bit and have you here to help move the story forward, Jay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of covers it. Like I said, this will be an ever-changing, ever kind of growing show, the way that we do things. Our first guest, I don't think necessarily knows he's going to be my first guest yet, and that's the way I like it. I was trying to tiptoe around his schedule to put him on the spot a bit, but we've got an exciting list of names that will be coming up here over the next couple of weeks. Okay. I just mentioned 17 days on the road if you count the travel days, which I know some people do, some people don't because you're in your own bed that day. But 17 days in total on the road following the Colorado Avalanche started at the NHL All Star Game. It was an abysmal trip for the Avs. Really not good. If you're taking out overtime points, they go 1-5 on a 6-game trip. There was plenty of interesting travel things that happened to me on that trip, but I don't necessarily know if we need to get into all of that. The one thing look, this is my show, right? I can make a tangent. I'm already taking a small little side quest here. I got a Thai massage. Have you ever got a Thai massage, Jay?
Never Thai, no.
They walk on you, and I did not know that until I was laying on the table. And the person was, because they start at your legs and stuff like that, your calves. Well, then suddenly I felt her stand up on the table, and I was like, well, what is happening? And at one point, they walked all the way, 1 foot on each leg, on each ankle, all the way up to where my neck meets my back. I can see your face, Jay. I loved it. I would do it again. I was very sore leaving there. but I genuinely felt refreshed for about 5 days.
That's what I would expect, but like in the moment, it hurts like hell.
It was painful.
And you don't know why it's happening and why they do it.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're like, wow, I can actually move.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. It was because there was a part of it that was like, this just hurts. But then even like when they would stop and they would be, moving to a different thing or, putting whatever they, washing their hands, whatever, I could like feel the blood like moving through my body. Like my legs were like warm and stuff like that. So that was one thing that I will share. I got a Thai massage. I did a deep tissue massage. I've done deep tissue massage before. Was not expecting them to walk on me, but highly recommend it. Other than that, what I wanted to talk about today was the All Star Game. This was my second All Star Game in person. The last one that I went to was 2 years ago in Vegas. That one was great because of the way that the event was set up. I'm a big advocate for, I think the league, the NHL, really, the NFL, sounds like the MLB is on their way to Vegas here in a couple of years if the Oakland A's ever get figured out what they're in the middle of. Vegas is built for these types of events. They're built for conferences and concerts and these types of large-scale events. I thought having it in Vegas, the infrastructure, the proximity of the hotels to the arena, everything, I thought it was great. To me, it really kind of like lessened the burden of the stress that can be those big national events where everybody's there. It's just chaos. It's craziness. This one was interesting though, because it was the NHL All Star Game in Toronto, what is largely considered the center of the hockey universe. And so the buzz that was there, I thought was fun and exciting. Not only that, the NHL changed the format back this year. They did the player draft. They kept the 3-on-3 tournament, but they did the player draft, and I liked the change because that to me was the NHL saying, hey, we know this product has gone stale. We need to add something to it. The NBA just had their All-Star Weekend wrap-up yesterday. The game was yesterday for the NBA, and they redid their format. They made All-Star Weekend a little bit longer. There were panels. There were more emphasis on like fan-centered events. They're not keynotes. Is panel the right word? Like what they do at Comic-Con? Is that a panel?
I guess so. Yeah. Where everyone's just sitting and you can ask a question.
Yes, yeah. There's like 10 people at a table.
Yeah, I would call that a panel.
Yeah. So the NBA did stuff like that, and they really kind of changed it into like, all right, we're going to do a celebration. And, they did the big LED basketball court that changed, and it was really fun. The game was a disaster yesterday. What's supposed to be the marquee event, the players, again, mailed it in, couldn't get anyone to try, and the NHL has had the same issues. One change I thought the NHL made that was positive was for the skills competition, they completely redid skills. Only a handful of players of the overall All-Star Game were selected to participate in skills. They each did multiple events, and the winner of all of the events with an aggregate, the highest aggregate score, won $1 million. Media availability after the skills competition, every player said that was tough. I was breathing. You got into the last couple of events, and Cale Makar told us this. He was like, suddenly you realize $1 million is on the line. I don't care who you are, how much money you make. $1 million is $1 million. And he said everyone kind of realized like, oh shit, I can make this happen here. I can put $1 million in my pocket. So guys are getting after it. Give the NHL credit on that. I think the NBA, the NHL, and what also happened in the middle of all of this was the Pro Bowl for the NFL. And same thing. They did the flag football game, and it was just kind of a joke. To me, clearly the leagues, these are money grabs, right? Like, let's all be honest. The All-Star Game is put on because it's an extra form of revenue for the leagues, and it's supposed to be essentially the ultimate way to market your team, right? Or your league. All of the best players are in one spot, all competing. What I think we learned this year, you had 3 different leagues try new things this year. to the same result. If you want to keep doing this, I think they all need to go back to the drawing board. The NHL has the most amount of runway. They're doing the newly announced Four Nations tournament next year over what would have been the All-Star break. Then the following season, it's the Olympic break, which has always supplanted the All-Star break now that the NHL is going back. You have 2 years, if you're the NHL, to get this product right if you want to keep doing it. We were in Toronto. The buildings were emptying out halfway through the games. The All-Star game, there were still events going on after, but it wasn't marketed correctly. The building emptied out. Like you have to do something to reinvigorate excitement, not only amongst the fans, but amongst the players. When the players don't want to be there, that's how you end up with these types of products. I have been an advocate for recently of like just turning these, essentially do what the NBA did, but lose the game. Do more skills. If you want to do multiple days of skills, you can. But I actually loved the idea that the NBA had of doing panels and getting the fans involved. They do the big fan fest every year at the All-Star game, and I think that's the best thing that they do. They bring in exhibits. They bring in Hall of Fame items, especially this year with the NHL. It was in Toronto. You're right next to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, lose the game. We don't need to see players going 25% at an All-Star game anymore.
That's also kind of how I feel about all those All-Star games.
Yes.
Because you try to get the best players there to see basically the best hockey game ever.
Yep.
But the problem is there's no competition involved. It's
right.
just one game and it's over. They don't have to be there. They don't want to be there. There's nothing to it.
Right.
They're not winning a Stanley Cup. That's what they do in the regular season where they put their everything in.
Well, and they're playing with guys that they wouldn't normally play with that are normally rivals. And that was why I liked that the NHL did the player draft this year, because it got you out of the division.
Yeah, that was cool.
So you're not like, you're not playing with guys that you're normally going like the most, ferociously head to head with. I don't know. I almost think that they need to do make it like Hockey Con. And just do 4 days, and you can do an on-ice skills, portion. You could even do that across multiple days. Take the same format the NHL did this year, but make it a 2-day thing. So this, the leader after day one is this player. Let's see if they can keep it going tomorrow. But I actually think that that's what they should do now. Take the Comic-Con idea and make it about your league. This is just a huge celebration of the league and the sport and all kinds of, the people that are in it. We'll do panels, we'll do special events, things like that. But I think this year between the Pro Bowl, the NBA All Star Game, and what we witnessed live in Toronto for the NHL All Star Game, turn it into a big convention.
You just got to make sure that the players also want to be there. Because obviously for the fans, it's going to be more fun.
Right.
But the players still have to have a reason to be there.
And they put it in Long Island for 2027. I think they need to be in warm weather locations. I think maybe even put them in locations there aren't teams. That's what I think. I think we can move on from All-Star, but it was interesting. Like I said, this is the second one that I've been to, and getting to see them up close. And then watching what happened in the two other leagues that I wasn't at. To me, this is just it's time to move on. Trade deadline coming up for the NHL. The NBA's trade deadline, I believe, just passed. And Nathan MacKinnon made an interesting comment to us in Toronto at All-Star Weekend. There was I believe they were a local Toronto reporter, asked Nathan MacKinnon about trade deadline and, it's coming up. Is that in the back of your mind at all? Are you guys thinking about that? He made kind of a funny tongue-in-cheek joke of, well, gosh, I don't think I'm getting traded, so I'm not too nervous about it. And I think it's safe to say that no, Nathan MacKinnon is not getting traded. But he made a comment unprompted. No one asked him about this. He said, I think the trade deadline needs to be earlier. And he called upon the fact that 2 years ago when the Avs won the Stanley Cup, they made multiple moves. They brought in Josh Manson, Arturi Lehkonen, Andrew Cogliano, Nico Sturm. 3 of those 4 moves were made multiple weeks in advance of the trade deadline. Andrew Cogliano, if my memory serves me correctly, was the only player acquired on trade deadline day. And that was very obviously a depth add. Now, if you're an Avalanche fan, you know he did play a significant role on the leadership side of that Stanley Cup. But Josh Manson, Arturi Lehkonen, who scores the goal to send them to the Stanley Cup final and the cup clinching goal, those were big impact players that were brought in ahead of the trade deadline. Nathan MacKinnon's argument was you need guys to have more time to get acclimated to these new teams. And we've seen countless examples of that in the past where guys get to these new teams, it's scrambly, they're getting families moved, kids are in school, so maybe they can't have their family there, and it just never really clicks, and then they sign somewhere new in the summer and they're right back to the player they were. I just thought it was an interesting thing for Nathan MacKinnon to bring up without anyone saying, do you think the trade deadline should be earlier? He went out of his way to say, I think the league needs to take a look at this and maybe move it up. Was this something that you were talking about before?
Well, I think it's mostly interesting that a guy like Nathan MacKinnon says it. It's not like a third line guy, whatever. It's one of the best players in the league. Yeah. If he says this unprompted, he means something with that.
Yeah, it's something that, like, it almost felt a little bit, again, like, not message sending. I don't think Gary Bettman and the NHL are like changing their rules based on what Nathan MacKinnon says, but this is a prominent star player at your All-Star game saying, hey, look, my opinion on this is if we're going to be moving guys this time of year, let's move this up so that teams know what they're doing, who their guys are. And it also just gives you a chance to, if you are a player that's being traded or you're on the block, you don't have to be sitting there sweating it this late into the season. Tyson Jost was the example a couple seasons ago when the Avs won the Cup. He's traded really late into the season. You go through 60 to 75% of the season with a team and then get traded, and you have to go watch them have all that kind of success and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time here, but one other thing I did want to mention, it is just funny this time of year. We go to the press box last night and it's packed shoulder to shoulder, scouts from everywhere showing up. So that is another thing to keep in mind here. Over the next couple of weeks, you will see a lot of tweets from a lot of different media personalities across the NHL. Like I said, the NBA, theirs is just passed. Obviously, NFL, MLB, ordering their off seasons. But actually, I just thought of something. This thought just came to me. I believe the NFL, and they may have changed it by a week or two with the addition of the addition of an additional game. With them adding another game to the schedule. So there's maybe a little bit, but NFL, their trade deadline is right about the halfway point of the season. I think that's pretty appropriate. Like,
it makes more sense, right?
I think so. You have half your season to figure out who you are, what you need to address. Then you have the back half of your season to get this new group acclimated, gelled together, and you go. I mean, really, the trade deadline for the NHL is March 8th. I'm going to pull up, and this is great listening. March 8th, the Colorado Avalanche ends their season on April 18th. And that mostly means there may be, give or take a day for teams around the league. But really, you're talking about, okay, so you're going to go October through March with one group, and then you got 6 weeks to figure out what you got if you're a playoff team that is added. To me, the more that we're sitting here talking about it, those ratios are just off. I didn't come into this with like a Nathan MacKinnon is right attitude, but like the longer I sit here kind of talk it through, I think Nathan MacKinnon's right.
It's just weird that it's so late in the season.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, also the teams that know they need to have a new player, they're not going to wait until the very end of the season.
Right.
And
Right.
if there's anything that they want to figure out after the season, they'll do it after the season.
Right. Yeah, if it's a move that you felt you couldn't make in season, you're 100% correct. We see that every year. We think these teams are going to be super active. They end up not really doing anything. And then that summer, when you have more cap flexibility, you have a little bit better idea of what players worked, what didn't. Okay, are these players that we maybe won't be able to re-sign? Like you just said, we end up seeing that a lot anyways. All right, cool. I'm officially on Nathan McKinnon's level here. I think they need to move it up.
We'll let them know next time.
Yeah. Hey, I was thinking about I'll tell them tomorrow morning skate. Was thinking about what you said, the All Star game. You're right. They should move up trade deadline. See you later. Last thing I wanted to get into here for me, Colorado Avalanche, Arizona Coyotes last night. 4 total reviews, 3 goal reviews, and 1 penalty review. We talked about it last night in our post-game show. For me personally, and Jared Bednar, head coach of the Colorado Avalanche, echoed this sentiment. Last night I actually thought was an example where they got every call right. It slowed the game down, no doubt. You ended up, I believe it was right at about 4 hours for a regular season game. That is way too long. That is not what the NHL wants. That's not what we want in the media. That's not what fans want. But I do feel like they did the 4 reviews. One of them was to confirm a penalty that was called on the ice to make sure that it was actually an opposing player's stick that caught Nathan McKinnon, coincidentally, up high and cut him. It was. 2 goals were called back for offside, and then 1 Colorado goal was upheld. The 2 that were called back for the offside, the Colorado Avalanche, I thought they were clearly offside. They got the call right. The one that I think is even leading to any level of topic or of discussion today is the Arizona Coyotes goal that was called back that took nearly 6 minutes to review. Jay, let me ask you, just hearing that at face value, without seeing it, is 6 minutes too long?
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you. You can't, every league, every pro league right now is doing everything they can to speed up the game. I believe even the pro beach volleyball thing that you were part of what you talked about with me with that was like, yeah, we want to do this quicker. We want to do, better, more efficiently, more action, more entertainment. Like everyone's trying to figure out how to speed the game up. And the NHL is kind of stuck in this rut with they're getting these long reviews. And it just leads to an interesting conversation of there's 2 different things that I think that make this topic interesting. One, do we want the replays to get the call right? You can talk to a lot of old school sports fans who say instant replay is ruining the game. It used to just be you lived with what happened. And I can see how that's appealing because then it is just truly whatever happens out there happens and you live with it. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. But I don't know. I think I'm of the opinion of like we have the technology to see when things are black and white, right and wrong, and I think we should utilize that. The fact that baseball still has real umpires behind home plate drives me up a wall. You not only do you have the technology in your possession if you're baseball to get strikes and balls called correctly with 100% accuracy, you use it on your broadcasts. You will show, yep, that was a strike, and then you will put up there a ball because that was what the umpire called. When you're showing on TV, that was in the strike zone. And then you're allowing your umpires to call pitches wrong. It blows my mind. And I sit here and I say, okay, well, if we have that technology, why wouldn't we use it to make sure that we are getting the most accurate results, especially when you start talking about gambling and betting money and over-unders and things like that. Now, the second argument, and my great friends down at PHNX Coyotes down in Arizona, were making the argument that the goal that was called back, it's razor thin. And that begs the question of, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this before in past podcasts, are we doing reviews to uphold the written letter of the law? Was it offside or was it not? Black and white. Or are we doing reviews to uphold the spirit and the integrity of what the rule was meant to be put in place? And I think that's where people get upset. Last night, if you're looking at that Coyotes goal that gets called back, if he's offside, if Alexander Kerfoot's offside, it's by this much. Does that make a difference? Does that impact the game? You could even go all the way back to, what was that, 2019? The infamous Gabe Landeskog going for a line change. He was ruled to be eligible to be replaced by a player on the ice, but then was also ruled to be offside as the Avs took the zone to score the game-time goal in Game 7 of Round 2 of the playoffs. It's hard because in the Gabe Landeskog instance, actually in both these instances, you're upholding the written letter of the law. That was a player who was offside. But I think both of those, if you're talking about the spirit of the rule, did they gain an unfair advantage by that player being offside? The answer in both of those examples I gave you was no. And I can see how that can be frustrating if you're a fan or just a spectator in general.
So what's your opinion? What would you go for?
I think you are at the point where the technology allows for you to uphold the written letter of the rule. And for me, as much as that can be annoying at times that you have guys who are offside by a half inch, why have the rule then? And where do you stop the gray area?
That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Because if you say you were offside, but only by 2 inches, right, that's okay. Okay, is 3 inches okay?
Right.
Is 4 inches okay?
Right. And okay, well, if 2 inches is okay, then make the blue line wider to include those 2 inches. Like, I just don't know. It's hard and it's frustrating in the moment. Now, here is how I think you fix it. I think you either put a time limit on how long you're able to review, or the refs have to look at reviews in real time. You can't slow it down. Because that's where I think people get frustrated. Because when you watch a play, you're like, that's onside. That's good. Using on and offside in hockey is the example, right? But I think there's plenty of, I am of the opinion that in the NFL, and I believe this did change. But like, I think you should be able to throw a challenge flag on a penalty. Was that pass interference or was it not? Again, like, and this is what opens the Pandora's box of it all. But my thing is, I think the refs should be able to go look at it. But when you're breaking stuff down frame by frame by frame, that's where I start getting into the spirit of the rule argument, where it's like, look, if you need, a microscope and a 60 frame breakdown to see if his toe touched the line in time, then to me that's like, okay, what are we doing here? Because now you're talking about fractions of inches and milliseconds. I think if you can look at it in real time or maybe half speed and you say, yes, that's offside, then it's offside. But where I do understand the qualms of people is when you are talking about, we're watching this seriously, it's 60 frames per second, and we're looking at each individual frame to determine, was his toe this far from the line or was it touching the line? That's where I'm like, gosh, what are we doing here? And you seem like you disagree with that.
Well, first of all, we're not gonna find a solution right now, right, which is great because now we can just talk about it and we don't have to, whatever. I think a rule is a rule. If it's offside, it's offside.
I'm with you. Yeah,
and
I'm with you.
If it's offside by this much, and they can see it on the camera, and they do see it on the camera, and they say we're not gonna look at it, and later a TV crew, whatever, is showing you on TV and it's offside, and your team is disadvantaged, what are you going to do? You're not going to say, well, spirit of the game.
And this is what I think is the correct argument of it and the unfortunate part of it, because you'll never get like a universal, people to agree on it. But it's exactly what you just said, and that's what has started it all, or what got us to this point in the in the past is, okay, well, they didn't review it, but everyone at home did. Everyone on Twitter did.
Exactly.
Everyone on the broadcast did. And that's where I think you run into problems. And like I said, the gambling and the betting and all that stuff is if you have something that's clearly a wrong call and then every person on earth can see it was the wrong call, that's where you start getting into problems. So, yeah, I think I'm with you, Jay. Unfortunately,
let me put it this way. It's annoying if it was offside by this much, for example, for this call, and you don't get that point. Your team doesn't get that point. But how much more annoying is it the other way around when it wasn't offside, it gets called offside, and it's not being looked at.
Yeah.
Or if it was offside and they don't call it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... Well, then here's my other thing, too, and this was a suggestion that was made last night, that I heard someone make last night. There's already chips in the puck, like microchips. We're talking about using the technology at your disposal here, and you really want to make sure you get it right? Well, cool. Put some chips, along the line, and if the puck chip is fully across this, you're going to get an indicator, and that's at least going to tell you when the puck is in versus when it's not, so you're not having to watch where's the puck, where's the skater, where's this and where's that. And again, I think this is applicable across every sport. You just have to pick what your review situation is. We're talking about offside because that was a prominent role in last night's game. That's all I got. What do you got for me this week, Jay?
So, the Avalanche were playing the Coyotes yesterday.
Yep.
You have been in the Mullet Arena.
Yes.
What did you think?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question. Viewing perspective, I think it is awesome to get to see an NHL game in that setting. I think it's really hard to have an NHL team being the second occupant of a college arena.
Yeah. What I also thought was interesting is it has a capacity of 5,000. On average, last year, they got 4,600 people in.
Yep.
So it wasn't even full. The smallest arena, college arena,
Yep.
about a third of the average stadium in NHL, right? Not even full. And the people of Tempe voted against building a new stadium there.
Yep.
I'm just wondering how much longer they can hold it out there.
And this feels like it's coming to a bit of a head. Exactly what you're talking about. Because here's what's so tough and what makes the Arizona Coyotes complicated for the NHL. Phoenix is a massive market in the United States. It's a top 5. I believe it's a top 5 market in the U.S. as far as viewership, population, sports market. It's a big, big draw. Should be.
But do they care about hockey?
Well, and so that's kind of the argument for a long time. The Arizona Coyotes used to play in downtown Phoenix in what I believe is now called the Footprint Center. It may still be called that. It was an arena built for basketball. It was not built for hockey. There was a lot of obstructed seats, bad sight lines. It just wasn't right. So they moved out to Glendale, Arizona. It would be the equivalency of the NHL moving Ball Arena to about where Family Sports is, maybe a little bit further south. And traffic, rush hour, being far from the center of the city, the response was terrible. And so the argument for a long time was, well, they just need to get back to downtown. People don't want to go out to the suburbs. My understanding of where the arena was going to be that was voted down was in like prime location. Very near the airport, right near this big river walk, kind of Cherry Creek-esque if you're familiar with Denver.
Very nice. Very
nice area, real near the ASU campus. So, it's a very popular area, a lot of people over there. And the site that it was sitting, that they were going to be replacing it's a dump. It's a landfill. It's a literal dump. And they voted it down. No taxpayer money going towards the project. It was all privately funded. Now, big shout out to our guy Craig Morgan down with PHNX Coyotes. I don't think the team and the league did a good job of letting people know this is not taxpayer funded. You're getting a free arena. All you got to do is vote yes. They did a bad job educating people on that. But it does beg the question of, does the market want a hockey team?
Well, the reason why I brought up this story right now, and I just sent you, a news story by Daily Faceoff.
Yep.
They're talking about how I'm reading it. Basically, it's impossible for them to stay unless you want to wait 4, 5, 6 years, because if they want to find somewhere to build a stadium now around Phoenix, they're gonna have to find private land, which is gonna take about a year to have everything signed. It just takes a while to do all of that, get permits, all that. Then you need to start building a stadium. Then you could start playing there for the 2027-28 season. That means you're going to be, like you said, a second occupant in a college arena for 1, 2, 3, 4 more seasons?
And I believe this is already the second or third season there.
Exactly. This is their second one.
Yeah. So it's that is where the problem is. Because they are putting out reports, and again, Craig Morgan of PHNX Coyotes is no doubt the best person to follow on this. I was just talking with someone the other day who's also very familiar with this. They're like, I don't know where he gets this. He's tied in on the politician side, on the city side, on the team side. So Craig Morgan's a great person to follow along with all this stuff. But you're right. The Coyotes are reporting. There's that tweet in the article saying, yes, we have a spot. But like you said, okay, let's say you have the spot this is where it's going to be. How long till you're ready to put a shovel in the ground? And now the NHLPA is getting on them for saying, we can't keep doing this uncertainty.
Well, that too, because that is if they find a spot. They still haven't found anything. Nothing is in the works yet. They keep tweeting, and I mean, I applaud them for trying to keep the spirits up, but the Coyotes are tweeting, not even tweeting stories, but just the tweet itself, telling them that, no, we are trying to stay here. And retweeting some news story with confirmed. We are trying. And
I thought the confirmed tweet was interesting. That came on the heels of the NHLPA president, just ripping the Coyotes at All Star Weekend. And they send out the tweet confirming a report from an individual third-party contributor, news outlet contributor. I thought that was really weird. The whole situation has become really messy.
It sort of looked like the social media manager went rogue. Because they also tweeted then, if you didn't hear it from me, #fake news.
Yes.
Me, as in, is that the social media manager?
Well, and I was even wondering, was there an exec that, said, I'm going to, we got to nip this in the butt right now? I don't know. I hope the Coyotes can stay. I think Arizona is a really important market for the NHL. I think it's important for growing the game. But you're just getting to the point. Here's the other issue. The Coyotes haven't ever had any success. It's hard for them. It's almost kind of like if the Rockies didn't have, if they had a stadium problem and they're asking people, hey, will you support us getting a new stadium? And everyone's kind of like, who cares? You don't win. And I do think the Coyotes are trying to build something in the right direction there. But I think all of this uncertainty is starting to weigh on the players. I think it's starting to have an effect on the organization. And we may just be getting to a point that the NHL needs to move them and then needs to maybe revisit soon Arizona as an expansion location. We're going to start from scratch, and once you have your building ready, we'll try again.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to shit on
it's a real thing
at
this point. Yeah,
but I'm just looking at the facts, and I just don't really see a possibility anymore to stay there. Also, because another tweet on the 7th of February, that is 12 days ago, and this was after they had missed their own sort of deadline twice already. They tweet out, an announcement with our plans to stay in Arizona will be coming out soon. 12 days later, we still don't know anything. Yeah. It just takes too long.
I'm with you. I'm with you because I really have. I've tried very hard to stay like I said, I think the Coyotes are. I think Arizona is an important market. I think there's some really diehard Coyotes fans who have stuck with the team through all of this and go sit in a 4,500 person arena every night. And I would like to see the Coyotes stay for their sake, but you're just getting to a point where you can't have it. I had someone in the NHL ask me, would the NFL allow this? Would the NBA allow this? And I know a lot of people's knee-jerk will be to say, well, the NFL did do it for the San Diego Chargers. At the time, they're the San Diego Chargers, moving up to LA, playing in StubHub Field, Stadium, whatever. That's very different. That was the NFL allowing a team that normally plays in front of 80,000 people to go into a 45,000 person arena, double the size of your standard NHL arena. Very, very, very different. Yes, half the size of a regular NFL stadium, still a very large outdoor venue. Where the Arizona Coyotes are playing right now is the equivalency. I mean, it's a college arena. It's like Budweiser Event Center where the AHL's Colorado Eagles play. It's like Magnus Arena where DU plays their games. It's a small, single-level, 10-row facility. It's great. It's brand new. But you can't have this go on for much longer.
Yeah. Well, to end this story, I did a little research.
Okay.
Because now they're talking, of course, about if they're moving, where they're moving.
Yep.
The most prominent one is probably
Houston.
Yeah. I thought Salt Lake City.
Oh, yes. Salt Lake City has emerged as the yes.
Because they said
right.
We're ready to host a team right now.
Yes.
We're ready for the expansion.
Yep.
But if you need us, we're here right now.
Yep.
We can just move a team in. So I did some research because I think most of our listeners are probably going to be from Denver.
I should have known Salt Lake. It's Salt Lake. You're right.
I think most of our listeners are probably going to be from the Denver area, or at least Colorado. And you've been to the Mullet Arena, like you said.
Yep.
You've seen a lot of Avalanche fans in those stands, right?
Yes, big time.
Because it's pretty close.
Yep.
Well, just think about if they move to Salt Lake City. Denver to Phoenix by car is 12 and a half hours. To Salt Lake City, it's only 8. It's even closer. And a plane ticket costs between $250 and $330 to Phoenix. I looked up November next year, just like general
start
idea.
of the season. Right?
Exactly. Denver, Salt Lake City, $159 to $230. So it could actually be beneficial for Avalanche fans.
Totally.
Then also they might. I mean, there's some talks about Quebec City, which would be kind of fun to have like a team back there, right, for them. That takes like 30 hours to drive there. maybe not the best for us. And $621 to $733.
Wow.
So,
yeah,
as Avs fans, let's root for Salt Lake City, right?
Yeah. Well, and I've been talking a lot in recent years about I want once the Arizona Coyotes to move to the Central Division. I said I want them to be good. Because that's proximity-wise. The Avs, when you look at a map, the Avs are kind of out on an island.
Yeah.
And so having a team that's close in proximity, that's easy for fans to get back and forth, I think that's good for the Avs. That's good for the league. And then here's the other thing that you just said about either Salt Lake or Houston. That would not be the case with Quebec City. And you're right. Salt Lake, they are very aggressively. There's an owner. There's a building. They're aggressively pursuing. You wouldn't have to realign. The Arizona Coyotes could stay in the Central Division, moving to either Houston or Salt Lake City. So it wouldn't be this, like when the Winnipeg Jets moved from Atlanta to Winnipeg, they had to play a season in the Eastern Conference and their travel was brutal. So you would be able to avoid this a little bit. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope the Arizona Coyotes can stay.
Yeah.
And I hope they get it worked out like today.
Yeah.
But if they have to move them to Salt Lake, and then do everything you can to have the next expansion team be in Arizona and have a building ready. It's what the Kraken did. Seattle got awarded the franchise and then spent the next 2 years grinding 365 days a year to get the arena ready. If you have to move the Coyotes, that's what they should do. Move them, put an expansion franchise there, ready to go for when the new building opens, and do everything you can to help market Arizona as a hockey market.
Yeah, because I think they have to move, but I would feel terrible for the actual big fans
Yes.
of the Coyotes that are just left without anything.
With nothing.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
That's it. That's it for you.
Yeah. 100%. So, all right. Let's get on to our guest. Our guest today is he's really the person that has helped make all of this kind of come together. Blake Rubenstein. He's my boss. And the reason I wanted to have him on our episode 1 is we get asked a lot about where we came from, new company. Oh, how long have you guys been around, this, that, and the other. And Guerilla has a really, really interesting backstory that I want Blake to kind of help fill everyone in on who we are, where we came from, and what it is that we're doing. So Blake, my boss, will be the one who helps kick us off with all of our interviews. So we'll be back after to kind of not break everything down, but wrap everything up and get out of here. But for now, Blake Rubenstein, CEO, Guerilla Capturing. Yeah, my favorite part about this is that you don't know what I'm about to ask, but it's nothing bad. Let's just start. Let's just do it.
You know what I'm afraid of?
What?
You should know the answer to
that. Is it nothing?
That took way too long.
My favorite part of this is that we're already started. You didn't even know that we're already started. This is all going in.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's all going in. Thanks for parking 20 minutes for me. I know it's hard to find time in your schedule. We're getting this in between your last meeting and your next meeting.
It's typical.
Yeah, typical.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being my first guest. I figured you were the best first guest because when you and I go to these events, whether it's here, a game here, or like we were just in Toronto, we get the question a lot like, oh, so you guys are like a brand new company. And I don't know how to answer that ever because what we're doing with Guerilla Sports is very new, but like all of this is not very new for you. So I'm going to start by asking you, Blake Rubenstein, CEO of Guerilla Capturing, what is Guerilla Capturing and kind of, I guess let's start there. What's Guerilla Capturing, which is the seed that has led to all of this?
We're a boutique video production agency, if you will.
Okay.
We help people with their creative needs, heavily weighed in video production. That's my whole background and career has been in making videos, and it's spun into business.
Which is a good way to make money, a business. When did you start? Like, what? So I know when like the founding date is, but like when did you actually start doing this?
Do you know what the founding date is?
Well, I don't know what the date is. I know what
Okay.
the year is. 2008.
June 10th of 2008.
It's one day after my wife's birthday.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It has to be related.
It's something, yeah. But so 2008, is that when you like first officially started doing like stuff on your own?
Yeah, and probably I was doing some freelance stuff before that and got some advice from someone I knew that was a successful business person and told me basically how to register an LLC with the state of Colorado and start doing everything as a business and having the protection of an LLC and doing everything legitimately.
As opposed to freelancing?
As opposed to just freelancing and being only under my social security number as an individual.
Oh.
I then became a business and had an LLC, which I guess was the right thing to do. It established an establishing date for the business itself. Now it's literally just a date that is, I guess, written on invoices as our establishing date. But I've always remembered that day because I actually went to lunch with my step-grandfather, and he's the one who gave me this advice. And I went home and registered for the business.
Oh, you did it all on the same day?
Yeah, that was June 10th of 2008. I ate at Jason's Deli with him. And
shout out Jason's Deli.
Jason's Deli. I wish it was a little more prevalent than it used to be. The muffaletta with no olive mix was the bomb.
Look, Jason Deli's not a sponsor yet, but we're here. I know you told me before that I think you originally went to school for something other than video, or video was like an addition. What was like the swinging moment for you where it's like, no, that's what I want to do?
Yeah, I kind of always knew. We went to the movies like all the time as a kid. And I knew since I was a little kid, I wanted to be involved in filmmaking or video production of some sort.
Yeah.
I went to CSU.
Now was that like you liked like making videos and stuff, or was it like no, I want to do that when I get older? Because I liked like doing creative stuff and like making videos with my friends and stuff like that. But it took me a long time before I realized like, ooh, maybe like being on camera is something that I would find interesting as a career.
I always wanted to be behind the camera. I never really thought I was gonna be like an actor or anything. Wanted to direct films.
Yeah.
Be the next Steven Spielberg or something like that.
Yeah.
We went to the movies so much and watched so many movies. It was a big part of my life, big part of my childhood. And I was just thought that I wanted to direct films.
All right.
And so
I like that.
My first try at college was up at CSU. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. That's where I kind of learned all of my social cues. I built lifelong friends. I think I learned more of what not to do there.
I was going to say,
do
but
great at school.
There's a comma coming at the end of this.
I basically played basketball for 7 hours a day and then went out with my friends and didn't do that great at school. Ended up leaving there.
Did you try film stuff there or not really?
I didn't really ever get into it because I was in media studies, and as an underclassman, I was trying to get through my cores and not really going to school.
Yeah. It's the passion thing though, dude. Like I had that same thing with like going like to the thought of like going to traditional college. I was like, I know that's not where my passion lies, and it sounds like the
kind of
the
wish
same
I
thing.
knew, but I also I wouldn't trade those years that I
Totally.
spent there for anything.
Yeah.
I did realize quickly I needed to find something like either a really good job or a focused program to really go learn. I ended up going to Art Institute here in Colorado, which
pour one out.
now no longer exists. But at the time, what I liked, it was like 4 classes about video for every core class you did.
Nice.
So I ended up doing really well in school then because I was a little bit older. It was my second try at college, and I realized that going there and being a part of it and then doing all the homework, it actually was fun.
Yeah.
And so I
Because
went
you
from
cared
knowing
about it.
really hardly anything about videos at all to knowing enough to go make beginning to end videos by the time I graduated.
Yeah. Do you? Okay, so you did all of that. You're doing freelancing, and then when you started this business, was there a particular shoot or a moment where you kind of were like, "Whoa, I'm actually doing this. Like this is what I set out to do." And I'm out here shooting video. I'm at this thing. I'm at this event. I'm working for this company, or not really.
I don't know if I have a singular thing like that. There are a lot of things that I do look back and reflect on now as big, significant things that have shaped it.
Yeah.
I think I probably need to do a better job of, and I'm actually better at it now in my 40s
We
where
talked
I
about
can,
that. Yeah.
like at the All Star Game, I was able to take some moments and realize the significance of where we were at, what we're doing, and who we're doing it with.
Yeah.
And I do. I try to like take those and be present, and I'm a little more like able to do that now as I'm older. I have kids, and I'm a little more reflective in general.
Yeah.
But I always just kind of was so like on
Focused.
the grind.
Yeah.
And like I would shoot all day, edit all night, try to get clients and talk to them in between. Before I had kids, like that was easy to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Your kids into making movies? Like, do they understand what you do?
Kind of. So Bodie's 7 and he definitely does. And he knows a lot about video production.
Nice.
He went on dozens of drone shoots when he was a little kid.
Sick.
Now, both my kids, my daughter is 3. And oddly enough, you'd asked me about that. I presented to my daughter's preschool today.
You already did that today? I thought that was...
No, I did that this morning.
Woo.
And
Dad of the year.
it was actually one of, just an awesome experience. I had done it before when Bodie, my son, was the same age in preschool, and it went about the same. You kind of have a plan on what you're going to talk about, and they just say whatever random thing comes
I was
around.
going to say that age.
3-year-old girls, and so I had the best time just kind of taking their questions seriously and interacting with them. Luckily, it was a very nice day. It's a very nice day out.
Yeah.
It is February, so I was worried that the drone wouldn't be
Ooh,
like
did you
my
take the drone?
saving grace, but
Sick.
I did. We all went outside and we took some class drone photos, and they loved seeing it fly around. So
Totally. That's got to be one of the
awesome.
that's got to be one of the better like career day demos that they get to see. So this is like the second most difficult interview of your day, because like fielding questions for a bunch of 3 and 5-year-olds, I'm sure is.
It's weird that I kind of have nerves going into something like that. Like,
Oh, dude, totally.
Feel on the spot,
Yeah.
especially with technically 3 businesses, and
Yeah.
all of it's a little more technical than a 3-year-old girl would understand. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they
teach
understood
them-
that we cover hockey, and
Nice. Yeah.
they obviously could see the drone flying, so they got that.
They got
took
that.
their picture, so they'll make some correlations there.
Yeah, they'll put it all together. So now looking back on everything, do you have so far in your career, do you have a favorite shoot or
Ooh.
a favorite like that was really cool?
Lots of them,
Yeah.
but I think there's some for different reasons. Ones that were pivotal and like led to more
Totally.
some stuff like that. One, I think just being an early adopter to the whole drone thing.
Yeah. One of Blake's videos, a lot of you probably saw in 2020. I can't remember what you officially titled it, but it was
I don't remember either. Actually,
you
the big
flew-
empty. I think.
The big empty. You flew the drone around Denver, like it was like that first week after all the stay-at-home orders went in, and I remember you sharing that. And then that night, I saw it on TV, like several different places, and that one kind of blew up.
Yeah, it did. It was odd because it's not like I basically just went out and drove around, which it was the easiest to find parking of all time. I'd literally just pull up to where I wanted and
Yeah.
just capture what normal landscapes and maybe some significant landmarks in Denver were, and seeing them completely empty with
It's
like
crazy.
at lunchtime on a Friday, I think it
Yeah.
was, or maybe it wasn't a Friday. Anyway,
It's a weekday.
at lunchtime,
Yeah.
there was 0 foot traffic, almost no cars out.
Yeah.
And it was very eerie.
Yeah.
And
But again, like that video went crazy because you were one of the, still even just a few years ago, like drone videos weren't as prevalent as they are now.
yeah,
I feel like.
um,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
Like
you're
a
totally
favorite
right.
shoot. Yeah.
I guess I was kind of correlating that. I had made a big deal because I was trying to get the 333 exemption, which is the initial thing to kind of before they had drone licenses.
Mm-hmm.
The exemption that you could get to fly commercially was this thing called a 333. Spent over a year trying to get it and couldn't never get it. Finally, they came out with what was going to be this drone test that you go take at an FAA testing facility and get a pilot's license.
Jeez.
So I was studying this material of
crazy.
what they were guessing was going to be on this test because it hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
Really weird how the dates line up. My son, my first kid, was born prematurely by 8 weeks, and he had spent 6 weeks in the hospital.
Yeah.
And during that is when, so he was born on August 13th of 2016. The reason I'm correlating all this because one of the biggest shoots that was pivotal in my career is for Twitter. And
Oh, wow.
the day of that shoot was August 29th while he was still in the hospital. So I left his hospital room, went and did that shoot. August 29th is the day that the drone test came out. Knowing I had the Boulder shoot, I scheduled it for August 30th the next day, which was also my second wedding anniversary.
Dang.
And I went and passed that test, and then that kind of sprung me into a whole other thing where I was all of a sudden getting hired to do just drone shoots.
Well, and
on
especially
top of doing the other videos we were already doing.
you had to have been one of the very first like licensed with what you're
I had
talking
to have
about, right?
been literally probably one of the very first because
Right,
I took
right.
it the day after it came out. But there was lots of people doing drones before me.
Right.
Most of the people who had caught on and were doing drones before were either pilots or did military stuff or drone work
Wow, interesting.
in other avenues than
Yeah.
video making. And so at first, it was very expensive to hire a drone pilot, and I wasn't getting the shots I wanted. Like I didn't really have any control as a director, especially early drones.
I get
I
what
never
you
had a monitor. So it was kind of a crapshoot on whether I could get the shots I wanted. So
Yeah.
when I learned how to fly drones, it was strictly all from the angle of what shots can I get and what
you looked
video
at it,
shots can I get and what photos can I get. I didn't care about what the drone looked like in the sky or any of that. I wanted
which is
the
what I'm
best
assuming
shots.
what they all cared about.
I don't know for sure, but
But you were looking at it from
saw
like
it as I was paying a lot of money to do that. I might as well teach myself.
totally, yeah.
And I guess I'm glad I did. I still do it. I do drone shoots all the time.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to watch the technology over, because now it's been about
Totally
8-9 years. The technology's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And the quality of the imagery is equally as ridiculous.
I'm always sending you the like they did the one. It's the same company that on the ice for the Golden Knights celebration.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, like just the maneuverability of that and how crystal clear the images are and all that. It's crazy. You said you learned that. You're always learning new stuff. That's one of the things I love about you is you're always like, all right, well, let's figure out how to do it. I dragged you into the world of sports. Well, I didn't drag you. You and I kind of dragged each other there. How different has it been shooting the stuff that we're shooting this year versus what you're used to, or what you kind of, built up to this point?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I haven't really necessarily taken time to think about those differences, but in the commercial work and branding stuff and all the corporate stuff we're used to doing, you basically bid out projects and you know what the project is, and you spend a lot of time in pre-production planning stuff out. Now all of our stuff that we're planning and doing is ahead of it. And as far as like sports news and coverage, that's like a live thing. You don't get redos. You don't get a second take.
Yeah. You don't get to have them come back out for another question.
No.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to go whenever they tell you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of it's different because it's news and it's professional sports. And I wasn't necessarily in either of those before.
Yeah.
Being an avid sports fan, I've been a huge Denver sports fan for my entire life since before I could remember. So I've always like followed and known a lot about sports. And it was really my consumption of sports media. I thought, I kept basically every year, every time I'd go to a game with Kevin, I'd try to get my couple minutes with you and be like, Jesse, let's make some really cool videos.
Yeah. So I guess, have you learned, has there been anything that like doing the stuff that is a lot quicker? Everything you were just saying about like, we don't have there's a lot of stuff that we talk about and like plan at the All Star Game. There were several things that like you and I were like, cool, we've got this plan. And then we're having to switch on the fly. Even as experienced and as much of like a pro in this space as you are, have there been any things that working in the sports and news that you're like, oh, all right, well, I just kind of learned a new skill that I didn't know I had before?
Yeah, I think that's
natural
every day almost. And that's the only way that we do get better. I think we spend a lot of time reflecting on things that work and don't work.
Yeah.
And then how to put up protocols for when, of course, one of the pieces of technology is going to break or something's going to happen. We kind of have, what's our next step? How is it that we're going to fix this based on whatever could possibly go wrong, right? And that's sort of what it's about. What are the ways that you can constantly adapt and be ready for whatever it is? Because the post game in the locker room they're not extending that all of a sudden.
Right.
And they're not going to bring Coach Bednar back out to the podium
because your audio didn't work or whatever. This is the last one that I've got for you, because like I said, I know you got to run to another meeting, but this has been like a crazy, it's been a crazy last 5 months or whatever since September when we first went to Vegas for the rookie tournament. And it's been really crazy and really hectic and really busy. Do you have a moment from this season, purely on the sports stuff, that's like that's been my favorite moment so far this year?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
It was meeting Elliot Friedman at the All Star Game.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you knew I was maybe going to mention
I genuinely
that,
didn't. I didn't know where you were going to go.
Well, and I think it's funny because we had talked for a long time. We've been a big fan of his. And I would jokingly, we would think one of our videos is going to take off, and I would lovingly say, Elliot Friedman's going to say something to you, or he's going to hit us up. There's going to be some interaction with him. And then when he said and you and I both hate the term validating, but he had some very kind words for us in person and knew who we were. And that was one of those moments like, we're on to something. Let's stay this course. What we're doing is getting noticed, and it's fun to do. So
Yeah.
We are onto something, Jesse.
Dude, I totally agree. I was just about to say, what's so fun for me, what has been so fun for me about this year is I have found myself in a couple different times, that being one of them, where, all right, we're doing pretty well. Like we're figuring it out. We're not.
Well, I want to know now what's your, because we've talked a lot. You've had some absolutely amazing moments in this. Do you have one that you would consider your top?
Honestly, right now, off the top of my head, I can't really think of one. We've had a couple different moments where I really have get back to the hotel room, get back to my house, whatever, and just kind of like stop and reflect. I don't have one for you right now, but I will have one for you by the end of the season. I'll
Do you know how many arenas that you've been to?
Did this morning, actually.
It's got to be in the 20s already.
Are you talking about this season?
This season alone, how many?
29.
29 arenas.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I'm sorry. 28 on Thursday. It'll be 29.
Detroit 1 game stop.
Yes.
Leaving tomorrow.
Yes, leaving tomorrow, Detroit. And that'll put me at 29 for the year. And the 3 I'll be missing are Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, which are all on one trip next month. And all right, I'll say it out loud. That will put me at all 32 NHL arenas just in my, not this year, but just total.
Okay. Since you couldn't answer the other question, then what's your favorite arena? And then what's your favorite city, not including the arena experience?
Probably Tampa. And I guess that's maybe cheating a little bit because it's the area around the arena. It's kind of Cherry Creek-ish. And I love it down there. There's great food. There's plenty of places to get drinks. The weather's nice. It's right on the bay. It's just a really nice area to be. So that's probably my favorite place to go. My favorite arena, I've heard this one in Detroit is really nice. It's just a few years old. I've heard it's very nice. For me, it's Seattle though. Brand new, state of the art. There's attention to detail on everything, from the media rooms down low all the way up to the press box. It's got a gondola style press box. You're like hanging over the ice. That one's probably my favorite arena. But I did get to do Bell Center this year for Montreal. That was a bucket list one for me. And then like Madison Square Garden's, like, how do you not love Madison Square Garden?
Well, and I haven't been on a mere fraction of the road trips you have, but we did the Golden Knights together early season. And that was a really cool in-game experience.
Dude,
I thought
it's the best in the league. In my opinion, it's the best in-game experience.
They make it like a Vegas show. I
totally.
thought it was fun. Like, it was hard to be in the media box and not like just kind of enjoy that, right?
Well, because dude, I mean, they got the showgirls and the music and I mean, like the pregame production. Totally, it's very easy to get caught up in everything in Vegas. So I'm with you on that. Vegas it's up there for sure. Their experience start to finish is great, but their like in-game experience, like any arena should be studying what they do. It's great.
Heck yeah.
Blake, thanks, dude. I appreciate this, and I had so much fun.
Thank you for literally everything. You're the driving force. You're what makes us go. You are the man. I know you absolutely love compliments.
Well,
we couldn't do this without you. You're huge. Thank you, Jesse.
Well, thank you, and truly, man. Like we talked about it when setting up that you were gonna be the one here talking. Like, I will take those compliments. I struggle to take compliments. I'll take them, and they mean the world to me. But you are also kind of like the heart of everything that we do here. Not only with the sports, but the studio that we're sitting in. The Guerilla capturing the business you were talking about at the top. Like, you are the heartbeat of all of it, and so we appreciate everything you do, and it's why I wanted you to be the first guest on this new show, because the show is called This Is Fun, and I think you and I have had some fun this year, and we're always trying to remind ourselves that it gets stressful and gets crazy, but this is something really cool that we get to do. So thank you for being a part of this with me.
Honestly, it's an honor, and you're welcome, and thanks again, man.
Thank you.
Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Blake. I ambushed him with that. He did not know that we were going to be interviewing him. I asked him for 20 minutes of his time to chat, and then we put him in front of a camera. So big thanks to Blake. I hope that helps people kind of get caught up on who we are. This is fun. We've had a great time getting this off the ground. It's been a little chaotic getting everything going here in the first few months, but Jay, I hope I hope you're in agreement with this, that I'm so excited about everything that we have coming next, because it feels like we're at a point where everyone's kind of taking a bit of a deep breath and we're ready to start doing the stuff that we want to do and not everything that we have had to do to get us, just to kind of a resting point. So I'm heading to Detroit this week. Then I'm heading on another 2-game trip next week, but we'll be back beginning part of next week with another episode and another new guest. And we're just going to keep building this. Please, we want the feedback, people you want to hear from, ideas you've got for the show. This is about giving you guys a look at what we do and the conversations that we get to have kind of every day. So thank you guys very much. Episode 1, cannot be more excited to get this going. So for Jay, I'm Jesse. Thanks so much, guys. Talk to you next week.